everyone. In the previous units, we have been talking about the first book of the Holy Bible, Genesis. And from today on, we will move on to the second book, the book of Exodus. Exodus, in fact, is the second book of the Hebrew Bible. It's also called Torah, Tala, okay? And Exodus is a Greek word. It means rolled out. So if I would like to use 3 words to describe the book of Exodus, I would like to say it's about a group of people. It's the Hebrews. And under a leader, a very great leader, whose name is Moses. And going through a journey from Egypt to Sinai or Canaan, okay? The book of Exodus is of great significance not only to the Christians all over the world. It's also important to Judaism today. Before we get on to the detailed analysis, I would like to invite you to listen to a piece of music. It's played by a very genius pianist from Croatia. You might know his name, Maxim. But, wow, yes, you know that. Good. And I would like to invite you to think about one question. How would you like to describe your feeling while listening to this piece of music? Tell you a secret. The piece of music is also entitled Exodus. Okay, how do you feel? Would you like to use some adjectives to describe your feeling? Do you feel excited? Very. Yes, excited. What else? Amazing. Good word. Yes, what else? What? Vigorous. Very powerful, right? And passionate. Yes, good. What else? we can feel this kind of strength. It's very strengthful, okay? You can even sense a kind of struggle, the struggling movement, right? Okay, in fact, hopefully, after today's class, when we got more understanding about the book of Exodus, when we know what really happened to the group of Hebrew people, when we really know what happened to the hero, Moses, I believe you can have a better understanding and a deeper understanding on this piece of music, and you will love it more. If I'm going to give a summary of Exodus, I'd like to use 3 phrases. And the first one, the key word is bondage. Bondage in Egypt. And the second word is journey. Journey through the wilderness to Mount Sinai. And then at Sinai, there's a covenant and laws with God. Okay. To understand the background of the book Exodus, we need to rewind the tape a little bit. Do you still remember where do we stop? In the last chapter of Genesis, okay? What happened to Joseph? The second youngest son of Jacob, Israel, right? Who was very doted by his father, okay? And so he wore a coat of many colors, right? Okay, later, his 11 brothers just sold him to a group of merchants to Egypt as a slave, right? And later, after a series of dramatic incidents, Joseph reunited with his family, and then they just settled down in Egypt, right? Okay, so the book of Exodus starts with their settling down in Egypt. Okay, when the family of Joseph settled down in Egypt, the story did not end with a fairy tale style. Many years passed. Joseph's son has died, and even the Pharaoh and the new king rises. And this new Pharaoh, who has no idea of Joseph, who has no idea of Yahweh at all, okay, so he treats Israelites harshly. Most important reason is that the Israelites got very prosperous. The number increased rapidly. So the new Pharaoh feared that what? Once the Hebrew people grow in large number in population, what? They might fight against the Pharaoh. So the new Pharaoh treat the Israelis very harshly to force them to be slaves, to make bricks, okay? And to make things worse, he even gave an order. Oh, I think that's really evil order, because he ordered to kill all the male children in the Israelites. So you can imagine, you kill the male children in a group of people, it means what? Destruction of the whole group of people, right? And just in this kind of background, Moses was born, okay? When Moses was 3 months old, he began to cry, you can imagine, and make a lot of noises. And his mother cannot save him anymore or hide him somewhere. Now, she cannot do that anymore. So, mom just put Moses, the baby Moses, into a small basket and then drifted him in the river. Okay. And then his sister, Miriam, followed. Okay, just want to watch what happened to my baby brother. At this moment, the princess, the daughter of Pharaoh, is taking bath in the river, and then she finds the baby. Okay, she wants to take it and then adopt him. Okay, so Moses, even born as a Hebrew, but he was raised in the palace of Egypt as a prince. When Moses grown up, one day he saw Egyptians beating, striking a Hebrew, and he got very angry, and then he tries to intervene and kill the Egyptian by accident. And the second day, okay, he discovered that the mother the day before has been exposed. So Moses has to be on exile. He has to run away from the palace. And then he got on his journey of exile. And later became a shepherd in Midian. Okay? So later got married. Let's look at this oil painting. It's painted by Nicholas Poussin. It's painted in 1638. Okay, the title is Pharaoh's Daughter Finds the Baby Moses. When Moses became a shepherd, let's imagine, maybe the life is not so easy, but anyway, it's a peaceful life, right? But, one day, God called to Moses, just as God called to Abraham. Say, Moses, I would like to ask you to go back to Egypt. Why? Because I hear the complaints of my people. I hear the complaints of the Hebrews. And I want you to go back to save them out. Okay, if you were Moses, what do you think? You are the princess there, but you kill someone, now you are a killer, you are a murderer, and then you run away, you escaped. Now God said, go back and take my people out. People, how many people? Not 100, not 20, it's thousands of Hebrew people. And now the Hebrew people are slaves in Egypt. Do you think the Pharaoh will let them go? Okay, it's not an easy thing, right? Of course, Moses, very doubtful about his ability, but God just affirmed him and showed him several miracles to say, just go and take my people out. So Moses went back. When Moses went back to Egypt, he talked to Pharaoh. You can imagine what's Pharaoh's reaction. You are joking. You're kidding. Okay, they are slaves. They are my people. And you said you are going to take them out. Of course, no way. And then God have 10 plagues struck Egypt. 10 plagues in Chinese, 十灾. And you might have ever know some of it to some extent. So let's go through very briefly. And the first thing is the river of Nile was changed into blood. And later, there's frogs in the land. We call it vazai, and the gnats, and then flies, and the deadliest disease on the livestock, and boils, even hail. Okay, so you can imagine one plague after another. And when we come to the ninth one is darkness. Darkness throughout Egypt. We know that Egyptians adore the sun, right? Okay, when there's darkness everywhere, you can imagine the fear in their heart. And that's not the worst thing. The last plague. God said, if you don't let my people go, I will kill all the firstborn son of Egyptians. Wow, that's really serious, right? Okay, and so that's called the death of firstborn. Okay, 击杀头生的儿子. And also, Yahweh, God, ordered the Israelites that you should be ready for the departure, for leaving Egypt, and you should prepare some unleavened bread to carry it with you. And what's more important, kill the lambs and eat them inside the house. And then painted the blood of the lamb on the door frame. So when I struck the firstborn son of the Egyptian and I saw the blood, I will pass you over. Get it? So this is, we say, the origin of very important festival for the Israelis, Passover. Means 逾越节, means you are passed over. You are ignored. You survived. Okay, so after departing the Red Sea, the group of Israelites just began their journey. And before that, God made a covenant with them. Do you still remember covenants? 约, right? Do you still remember the first two covenants? What's the first one? The first one with Noah, right? And the sign of the covenants is what? Rainbow. And the second one is with Abraham. We have a kind of sign of circumcision, right? And now God has the third commandment. In history, it's called 10 Commandments. In Chinese, we also call it 摩西十诫. Okay, let's have a detailed look at what it's all about. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the forms of anything in the water below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. You shall not misuse the name of Lord of your God. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. Honor your father and mother, so that you may live long in the land of the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor, and you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his manservant or maidservant, his ox or donkey, and anything that belongs to your neighbor. Okay, so altogether, there are 10 commandments. Okay, if we can divide the 10 commandments into 2 parts, we can find the first 3 is concerned with whom? With God, right? Okay, the main idea is you cannot have other God. So this is a very clear indication of monotheism, right? Okay, 单一神论或者叫独一神论, right? And you cannot misuse my name, and also keep the Sabbath day. Sabbath day means 安息日. Do you still remember in Genesis that God created the universe and the human being in 6 days? And in the 7th day, God rested. But have you ever noticed one thing? That some calendars, it does not start with Monday. It starts with what? Sunday. Yes, that's it. Okay. So Sabbath day is not Sunday. It's Saturday. The Jewish people today, they celebrate their Sabbath day from the evening of Friday till the evening of Saturday. That's called Sabbath. 安息日. And from the 4th to the 10th, they are about what? Moralities, right? Okay? So do not murder, do not steal, do not give false testament, 不要做假证, and honor your father and mother, 孝敬你的父母, and also do not covet your neighbor's wife. Covet here means 贪恋, okay? But while Moses is on the mountain, the group of Hebrews, they are just waiting down at the bottom of the mountain. And Moses left for quite a while. And under the leader of Aaron is Moses' brother, people got very impatient. So they decided to build up a golden calf to worship, to be an institute of God, because they cannot see God now. So they built up a golden calf. And this is also a painting by Nicholas Poussin. It's also called The Adoration of the Golden Calf. So let's think about it. On the mountain, God is talking to Moses. I give you 10 commandments. Do not do this, do not do that. And the number 1 rule is, you shall not bow down in front of other idols, right? So they are having this golden calf. They are dancing, they are cheering, they are worshiping. So when Moses got down the mountain, of course, he's very angry. And then he smashed the tables of the law. And this is a picture by Rembrandt. Rembrandt, 伦勃朗. And this is a typical style of Rembrandt and his style of painting with lights and colors. And this Moses just smashed the tables. After that, God gave Moses a new table, okay, and then guide the group of people walking through the wilderness. And here I have a map. This map shows the Exodus route, 出埃及记的路线. We can see that here, they start here. It's in Egypt. And they cross the Red Sea, okay? Cross the Red Sea, and they want to go to here, Canaan. You can see it's not a very far distance. In fact, it should be a 40 days journey. But the Israelites, they just wandered in the wilderness, round and round, round and round. They wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. Why? Because they have no faith. They have no confidence in God. Okay, you know, when they are passing the Red Sea, they complained, oh, we are dying. Why should we go here? We should die in Egypt. And then, under the guidance of God, Moses parted the Red Sea. We call it the 过红海, right? And later they said, oh, we should have died in Egypt. Even though we are slaves, we still have a place to sleep and have something to eat. Okay, why should we die in this wilderness? And we have no food. And then God gives them manna, something for food. And then they complained, we have no meat. Okay, we want to eat meat. And then God just sent quails, 鹌鹑. And then they said, oh, we are thirsty, we have no water. Then God asked Moses to strike a rock, and water came out. Okay? It seems they are always complaining. They are always complaining about their situation. And then God said, okay, I will give you food, I will give you water, I give you everything you need, but you should follow my commandments. Because I choose you, I save you out of slavery. And you should follow my law. We would like to say there is a pattern repeated in the book of Exodus while the Israelis are going through the wilderness. That is, people complain and rebel. Then Moses will talk and negotiate with God. And God said, okay, I can do that, but you should follow my law. And then the group of people said, okay, yes, we will keep our promise. And later come to the first step again. So we can, this kind of pattern repeat itself in the book of Exodus and also in the later parts of the Holy Bible. Now, we have already go through the story of the book of Exodus very briefly. In fact, there are some great themes in the book of Exodus. Let's think about it. The first one is oppression. The Israeli people, they are slaves under the oppression of Pharaoh, right? And then, what about exile? 流放的主题. Moses, right? Moses killed the Egyptian, and then he was on exile. And what about liberation? Of course, the whole journey is a journey of liberty, right? From bondage to liberation, okay? And also, it's a journey from bondage to the promised land. The promised land, in Chinese, we translate it as 应许之地, means God promised the place to the group of people, okay? And also, it's a march it's a long march of transformation. In fact, we say before leaving Egypt, the Israelites, they are a group of people who have been living in Egypt for almost 400 years. And they almost forgot about their God. But after the journey, one God just to be together with them through the journey, they have a clearer idea about who God is. And then, when they arrive at the Canaan, okay, the promised land, they are ready not only physically, but also spiritually. So I would like to call it a march towards a goal, a moral progress, and a transformation. Just as I said, the book of Exodus is of great significance to the Christians, and also is a very important book of the Hebrew Bible, Torah. And the legacy of the book of Exodus played a very important role in Western civilization and Western culture. It influences and affects life even today. So we are going to see the legacy of the book of Exodus. And the first one is alluring. Alluring means 典故, right? And the first word is Exodus. As we can imagine, X is a affix, is a prefix, right? It means outside or out. So Exodus just means the road out. It used to describe this kind of mass departure or emigration. And this famous former slave, Frederick Douglass, who has ever written an essay in the 1880s that's called The Negro Exodus from the Gulf States. Okay? Sometimes we will read the stories or news like mass exodus of refugees. Another allusion that we would be very familiar is lands of milk and honey. And today we translate it as 流着奶与蜜的地方. Of course, in the book of Exodus, it refers to the Canaan, okay, the place that God promised. Okay, and today we use this phrase to refer to a kind of vision of utopia, idealist. For example, let's look at an example. Say, one Betty got a new job. She said she was in the land of milk and honey. Another one is golden calf. Golden calf, 金牛犊. We know this is the symbol of Wall Street, right? This golden calf, in fact, in today's language, it means materialism or anything worshipped undeservedly. And the legacy of the book of Exodus is laws for living. If you go to Israel today, or even you are invited to the Israelites family, you will find they are still practicing and follow the principles set by the book of Exodus. Okay, let's take the 5 festivals still celebrated by Jews, for example. Okay, 犹太人所过的5个节日. The first one is the Jewish New Year, and the second one is Days of Atonement, and the Passover, and the Feast of Weeks. The Feast of Weeks usually lasts for 7 weeks, so altogether it's about 49 days. So in Chinese, we translate it as 五旬. So 五旬 means 50 days. Get it? And then another one is the Feast of Booths. It's also called the Festival of Tabernacle, 住棚节. And then we will come to the detailed analysis on Passover. Just as I mentioned before, they painted the blood of the lamb on the door frame, so God passed them over, right? And today, Passover is one of the most important festivals celebrated by the Jewish people. And this is a Seder. Seder is called 逾越节宴席, 或者被称为祝宴, 祝福的祝, okay? And this is a typical Seder table setting. what can you see? We can see cedar plate, and this is the Hebrew Bible, and unleavened bread, and bowls with salty water inside. And an important tool for Passover is the cedar plate. It can be very different, okay? And they are made of maybe porcelain, and some are just plastic and look very naive and cute, right? And then this is the most delicate and elegant cedar plate that I have ever seen. No matter what kind of material they are made of, we can find they all have places for things on it to indicate to you what to put inside. So in this cedar plate, we have 6 items, okay? I would like to use this picture to explain that. Usually, there are 2 kinds of bitter herbs. Bitter herbs represents the hardships and sufferings of the Hebrews when they are in Egypt being slaves. And the bitter herbs, this kind of, it's called horseradish. In Chinese, we call it 辣根儿 or 芥末. And then this is a kind of romaine lettuce, a lettuce which is very bitter, okay? And also, there should be a kind of vegetable, which is not so bitter, but they will use salty water. They will dip the vegetable into the salty water and eat it to remind them of the tears and suffering that they had ever experienced in Egypt. And this one is called carousel. It's a kind of mixture of usually apples or fruits and nuts and also wine. It's a mixture thing. It represents the material that the Israeli people use when they are making bricks in Egypt. And also, there should be a shank bone, a bone of the lamb, okay, and hard-boiled egg. Okay, they are the 6 items in the cedar plate. The Passover is celebrated according to the Jewish calendar instead of what we use, the Gregorian calendar. Okay, so it usually starts at the end of March or early April. It depends. And it usually lasts for 7 to 8 days. And during the festival, they will retell the story of their being slaves and their life of bondage, and then they're wandering around in the wilderness. Okay, just remind the people of the sufferings and of the miracle that God has done. Okay. Another festival, the Feast of Booths, or also called the Feast of Tabernacle, 住棚节, means you live in a booth, right? Okay, we can imagine while the Israelis, the Hebrews, when they are wandering around in the wilderness, they live in a tent, right? So today, the Hebrews, the Israelis, still build up a temporary hut or shed, or this kind of booth, during the Feast of Booths to remember those days. And it can be like this, or just like this, or like this. The book of Exodus also provides lights for emancipation, right? Because the book of Exodus is just about the group of people who try to seek for liberty, right? Okay, so during the American War of Independence, American revolutionaries, they say that America is what? It's God's new Israel. And they think the British king is whom? The Pharaoh, right? And also during the abolition movements, 废奴运动, they also believe the slaves, they are seeking for a journey of exodus, seeking for freedom, okay? People who suffered in Nazi in the 20th century, they also believe, okay, they are seeking for their exodus. emancipation. The second legacy is called the Jubilee year. Jubilee year is 喜年. It's from Leviticus 25:10. Okay, let's read it. Consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty through the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each one of you is to return to his family property and each to his own clan. That is to say, every 50 years, all the slaves should be what? Set free. And they should go back to their family, to their clan, to their tribe. They are free. You cannot keep a slave for more than 50 years. And also return their properties. So, Jubilee becomes a kind of hope for liberty, emancipation, and relief. The sentence was inscribed as a motto on the Liberty Bell, okay, that was run to celebrate the Declaration of Independence in 1976. The book of Exodus gives people a kind of idea of doing justice. 公正. Okay, let's read something. Proper owners were forbidden to reap every last bit of food from their lands. The weed on the edge of the field or the grapes fallen in the vineyards were left for the poor and alien. That's interesting law, right? Okay, when you are harvesting, you cannot take everything. You should leave something on purpose. For whom? For the poor and the alien. And wages were to be paid promptly. Wow, that's really advanced. 1,000 years ago, the book of Exodus had said you should not delay the wages. 你不可以拖欠工资. And justice was to be delivered impartially and shall not be partial to the poor and defer to the great. Israelis were commanded not to punish children for the sin of their parents and vice versa. Okay? You cannot punish children for their parents' sin, and you cannot punish the parents for the children's sin. So we can see this kind of idea of being just. That is to say, the individual should be responsible for their behavior. And there's another thing which has ever been misunderstood very frequently, that we all heard about the phrase eye for eye, tooth for tooth. In Chinese, we call it 以眼还眼，以牙还牙. We have a kind of misunderstanding. We believe it's kind of for revenge. You beat me, I beat you. Because eye for eye, tooth for tooth. I have to say, the real meaning is just the opposite. In fact, an eye for eye, a tooth for tooth principle, it says we should limit the punishment of the behavior, and it should follow a kind of principle that's called proportionality. That is to say, I hurt your eyes, then no more than that. You can break my legs, but you should not take my life. This is the real meaning of eye for eye, tooth for tooth, instead of the idea of revenge. Okay. And we have to say this kind of proportionality in the legal system, we call it 叫罪责相称. It's a very important concept in the modern theory of practice. The book of Exodus gives some laws like, okay, do not eat blood. And this is really something I strongly suggest you to be careful. You know, sometimes you might invite your foreign friends to dinner or even to have a hot pot, right? Remember, while you are ordering something made of blood, we know that, blood being curd. Okay, you should be very careful. You'd better ask before ordering, because in Western world, many people, they don't eat anything which contains blood. The book of Exodus gives some ideas about, we call it forbidden sexual relationship. Okay. And nowadays, sometimes when you are watching TV or listening to radio, the Christians, they fight against a certain kind of sexual behavior. In fact, we have to know why they think so. Okay, let's read them. No one is to approach any close relative to have sexual relations. I'm the Lord. Do not have sexual relations with your sister. Do not have sexual relations with your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter. Do not, do not, do not. We see a very similar sentence structure. Okay? That is to say, do not have sexual relation with relatives close. We call it incest. 这种关系被称为乱伦。And let's look at here. Do not lie with a man as one lies with a woman. That's detestable. The previous sentences is about incest. And here is about homosexuality. Okay, against the homosexuality. And also, do not have sexual relation with animals, both men and women. Okay, so we can see that the book of Exodus gives a very clear about sexual relations, which are forbidden, and this kind of idea, of course, influence the concepts and values of the Western world. Okay, that's the story of the book of Exodus and the legacy the book of Exodus brought to today's world and today's lives. Now, it's time for a question to consider. You might know that in Chinese history, in 1771, a 12th exodus took place during Qing Dynasty and Emperor Kangxi. Okay, this group of people, they also went through a long journey trying to go back to their hometown. This was called 土尔扈特人东归. Okay, and this map just shows you the route of their exodus from today's Russia. Okay, going long journey through the wilderness and arrived Urzin River today. Now, my question for you is, go back home and try to find more materials to find out the history. Led by whom? Who is the leader? Do they have a figure like Moses? Who is he? And why? Why do they want to escape? And how many people? How many people one day get started? And how many survived? And how long does it take? And then what happened during the Exodus? And what's the influence of the 12th Exodus in Chinese history? And you will find great similarities between the two historical events. Okay, for more information, you can read references. Okay, here they are listed. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you.